Hello, true art believers, and welcome to today's live art stream. This is Pearson here. I am the #1 live art streamer in the world, and I just want to say I'm coming to you from the beautiful Venice Beach, Florida. It's sunsetting right now, actually. I am doing my live stream as I'm looking right out into the ocean. The sun is setting into the distance, and it's quite beautiful, but we got to get this drawing done or else I'm not going to have any natural light to do my live stream anymore. So today, aside from it being day 355, we're going to be doing some just simple sketches from George Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. If you have not been acquainted with this artist, he is a master draftsman, and I don't know if he's still alive. Yeah, I don't know if he's still on this earth anymore, but he's made some great books and references for anyone who's beginning to do figurative work in the field. Feel free to check out his work and his books. You can find them on Amazon, probably on eBay as well. I know you can find them on eBay. I know you can find them on Amazon, and there's a variety of different books. He's made a lot of illustration books and how to purchase specifically diving into the topic of figurative drawing. So we're going to be doing some drawings for about 30 minutes, probably less than that, maybe like 28 minutes, really. About 28 minutes. I only do about 30 minutes worth of drawing. And we're going to do about 30 minutes. And I chose this page because there's a lot of stuff I can kind of dive into. There is another page right here. I might even dive into this page right here to kind of get warmed up, you know. So what I'm going to do now, I haven't done this in a while, is I'm going to do a little bit of warm-ups. I'm going to do some warming up here just to kind of get the drawing juices flowing. But before I begin, I'm going to drink some water, and then I am going to click a special button here that I have, and we're going to hit this bell right here. Boom. Alrighty then. So what I like to do sometimes when I do sketchbook work, you don't see it in this page, on this page particularly, but you haven't seen it in my. Well, I have another sketchbook somewhere lying around. Actually, it's not in this room. But what I typically do is sometimes I'll just do some warm-ups here, and you'll see this often in a lot of other people's sketchbooks. You'll see them like draw circles over and over again. And there really is some utility in that. I kind of think of it as like you're warming up, you're priming your visual central nervous system up, you know. And I'll typically do that a couple times. Sometimes I'll do small circles inside the circles here. We're just kind of practicing getting our visual hand-eye coordination up to par, you know. It's kind of like when you're at a gym and you're just kind of warming up and you don't want to pull a muscle. You want to get some of the bad habits out, or you want to kind of get acclimated to the act of doing art in general. So you'll see me do this from time to time. And then sometimes after this, after I do a bunch of circles, what I'll do is I'll do some ellipses in those circles to kind of make them into spheres, right? And I'll do this from time to time. I don't always do it. Perhaps I should do it every time I do a live or like I do a drawing where I just do some warm-ups here and then kind of get, basically you're kind of getting loose. You're loosening up your capacity to kind of be a little bit more elastic in your drawing. And to be able to do this over and over again should yield some results. And the reason why you do this is it's not just because you want to learn how to draw circles and ellipses, is because if you're like doing technical drawings, doing ellipses drops you into a perfect situation to create cylinders, to create the structures And if you can create a cylinder, you can create the structure of an arm or a leg. You can create the structure of the head, right? You really open yourself up for a variety of forms, from being able to do an ellipse and so forth. And you'll often see some other artists. What they'll do is they'll do like call it ghosting, right? They'll do movements back, up and down, up and down, up and down, and that way, when they draw a straight line, they're basically practicing, rehearsing the line over and over again before they're actually doing the line. And then some people they'll actually even just do the line, and then the act of doing the line will kind of prep them mentally to get better lines. And so I'll do that for a few minutes. I got about 4 or 5 more minutes before I can I should stop, and I'll just do more ellipses. Let's do like 10 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. And then let's do some ellipses inside there. Let's do like 5 ellipses to make these into like Pokeballs. So we're going to do some ellipses inside those circles that you made. And they don't have to be good, right? They're just kind of priming you mentally for the process of drawing. It's kind of like when you wake up in the morning, and if you're like, I don't want to go to work. You don't want to go to work, but there's like this thing that you do in the morning. Like some people will have their cup of coffee that kind of like sets them up for the day. So maybe this is like your drawing equivalent of coffee, right? Without actually having coffee. I'm gonna drink some water here. So it's a very, very simple thing to do, but if you keep doing it, it should yield better. Like this makes you a better artist overall, because if you can draw cylinders very well, you can draw forms. And so now let's do some cylinders here. Like what I like to do is I like to do the ellipses, and I'll do like some lines right here, right? And you draw another cylinder right here. Maybe you do a cylinder right here. Where you place it in the area when you're warming up really doesn't matter. I know some people have like this, what would they call it? They call it like, they want their sketchbooks to be clean and perfect. I think of sketchbooks as an area to kind of like really mess up, like to really make errors, because your sketchbook, it can be a personal endeavor, but also it can be like this kind of like artistic journal where you're just kind of exploring and doing the act of drawing, and you're making mistakes. And it's a place to kind of really open up and to improve. So it's like the safe spaces of drawing. Like you can't mess up in your sketchbook. You just can't. It's impossible. There's no right or wrong. So what I do from here sometimes is I'll go into doing like cubes. So what I'll do is I'll do a few cube shapes, and I'll typically do like, what would you call it? Can you even see my sketchbook? Yeah, I got some space there. I'll do some 2-point perspective cubes here, just to kind of warm up. Nothing really special. And again, it's just to kind of get into this idea of drawing. And notice how like my cubes are really bad. I haven't done cubes in such a long time. Man, it shows you how much I need to kind of get back into it, right? And I'll just do some cubes here and there, and so forth. And you want to do multiple ones to kind of just get used to the act of making these shapes. And as I said, I don't do these that often, so it takes me a bit of time to kind of get back into the act of creating these shapes. And perhaps I should do them like almost every day. Like, I think it's one of those things you should probably consider doing every day, as purely as the act of like just practicing simple forms over and over again. Because if you can do these forms very well, then they will transfer over into actual drawing ability. So if you're able to create simple blocks, then you're able to use those blocks to create more complex shapes. So that's a good skill set to have when you're drawing, because you want to start simple when you're drawing. You want to be able to break things down into the simplest components, because if you can deconstruct them into small shapes, the bare minimum of shapes, then you can reconstruct them into more advanced forms. So that's is always a good thing to have available to you at your disposal as an artist. And again, as you see, these aren't really fantastic, right? So I just wanted to kind of do that as a base warm up. Now we're at 11 minutes. The sun is setting, man. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're going to have enough. I don't know if I'm going to have enough light by the time this live stream is over. I am not kidding. It's getting dramatically darker. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at this. Since I did some warm-ups here, right? We did a little warming. We're warmed up. We're mentally ready. I'm going to draw some stuff on the left side here. And as you can see, the left side here, there's some things that look like the shapes that I was doing. Like we can say right here that this is either a block, or it is like a square or a cube, or it is also a sphere. So what I was doing applies to this. So I could definitely use that practice that I was doing to apply it to what I'm drawing. So now we have that sphere that we were practicing earlier, right? And now we're going to kind of convert it into like a block-like shape to kind of express that head area. And then around that head, if you look at the sketchbook, or look at this piece of paper here, like you notice this is actually a cylinder, right? This is a cylinder, and we were making a cylinder, right? So we practiced those cylinders already. So we should be able to kind of create a version of that onto this drawing here. Now, it may not be a verbatim version, right? But it definitely kind of primes you for it. So I'm not trying to create a correct or like a verbatim image here. I'm just trying to get something that is very similar to what I'm seeing. And I don't know, to be quite honest with you, I don't feel fully warmed up here, but I am going to do the best that I can with the time that I have. And right now, actually, what's happening right now is I'm very concerned. What's pulling my attention from this drawing is I'm concerned about the light source. I'm concerned that this area that I'm working in right now is going to kind of lose. It's going to lose its light, and I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to continue the drawing. I don't know. I'm worried that might be a thing, right? So that's what I'm worried about, and that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. And perhaps I shouldn't be thinking about that, right? I shouldn't worry about stuff that's out of control. I can't control the sunset, right? I can't control those things. I can control it in theory. What I can technically do is I can turn on the light in here if I know where the light is. I don't think the light is even on. Anyways, I don't even know where the light's at. I don't know where the light's at. I can't find it. And I can turn the light on. That's what I can do. And then I can continue on my merry way. But I don't have like direct control of the light source. I only have I have a few things I can do. Technically, this tripod stand is a ring light. I just don't have access to I don't think the cable's long enough to connect it to a plug outlet that's nearby. I don't see any outlets nearby that's long enough. I don't even have the correct whatchamacallit. I don't know. Anyways, so that's neither here nor now. What would you call that phrase? Like neither here or now? What would you call it? How would you label it? I don't think I'm drawing this as correctly as I could. I think this beckons back to what I was talking about earlier, is why when I do these type of sketches, I'll typically do them 1 to 4 times. I'll do them 1 to 3 times. I'll do them over and over again, so that I kind of understand what he was thinking, and so that I do that so people can understand. So I can particularly understand what the artist was kind of thinking with the construction of this. of this model here, and so that I can understand more fully when I'm drawing from it. So it's always a learning process when you're doing stuff like this. And there's no like, it's never going to be perfect, right? I'm never going to, like right now, since I'm spending more of my time talking, I'm not too concerned about whether the drawing is going to be at the level that I like it to be. I'm actually quite astounded. What's really interesting about this is the sunset really quick, and it got dark real quick. Like within 15 minutes, the sun was gone. Now it's just like it's getting darker and darker by the second. Blah blah blah. Here we are, and yep. So I am going to add some shading here. Pivot the shading a little bit. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of being sloppy with my shading. I'm not too concerned about whether or not the shading is really good, because it's just I'm just trying to mimic the hatching that George Bridgman did on these, and he's using like a pencil. So there really is no right or wrong with this. It's just me kind of playing around with the hatching direction, like so. Again, and we're just kind of having fun with it. We're just playing around with it, and as you can see, this is if we look at my sketch and his sketch. Obviously, his is better because he's done it so much more. But also, I'm doing it slightly different. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to move somewhere else. We're going to move to another. We're going to pivot a little bit and draw some of this stuff here while I have some time. When I look at this stuff, you can see what he was thinking, and that's where doing those block studies comes into place. So if you do cube shapes, you can make the torso. So I was doing those cube studies. So now, because I was doing those cube studies, if I were to recreate some of the stuff that he was doing, I'm going to draw this. I'm not even going to draw this. I'm just going to draw it as blocks, so you can get an understanding how it translates. So I am taking what he drew here and creating a kind of like a more of a simplified version of it, right? So he's got these two blocks essentially, and he's taken those to create the torso. Now there's more to it here. He's made them into block. He's made everything into blocks, but they're more curvilinear blocks. So that's what I would start off with, and then what I would typically do is, well, now he's got the head there. The head there, as you can see, he's made into a block of sorts, and more like, yeah, it's kind of like a block. It's kind of like a block shape. Kind of reminds me of like characters from like Star Wars or something. And so that's not that good. So what I'll typically do is I'd start over. I do another one. This one's going to be a little bit closer to the form that Bridgman was rendering, right? And we're going to kind of take this idea right here that we have, and we're going to make it more of a curvilinear example. So we're going to make it the same thing like this. So we're going to take these block forms and we're going to make them less angular. We're still going to have some of that angularity there, but we're not going to, there's going to be a looseness to it that's going to kind of mimic the form of the body to some degree. I noticed after I did this, I'm actually not exaggerating the angle as much as George did on this. So like there's more of an angle happening there. He's pushing the hips forward more, and the back is more arched in this rendering. And the reason why he does that is it really makes the figure feel more like a figure. Even though like in real life, when we're standing, we're not exaggerating our pelvis forward that much. We're not expressing these forms like that, right? They're not as exaggerated as they are in real life, right? Unless you're like a supermodel where you're trying to exaggerate those forms. And That's why you see him in his drawings, his renderings, he is exaggerating forms so that the figure feels like it has more weight to it, you know, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it makes it for a better drawing because it feels more solid. It feels more like it's adding, putting pressure onto the surface that it's standing on. And even though it may not in reality be like that, there's more like density because that exaggeration of form adds that, like, it adds the impression that the figure or the person or the model is adding pressure to the surface that it's sitting on, you know. So that's what's happening. So if you hear like some noises outside, there's like a party going on, man. There's like a super party. There's like drinking tequila. I don't even know. I'm just imagining it. They're drinking tequila and they're chatting it up about weird, funny times, and that's what they're doing. So, oh my gosh, that's what happens when you do these live streams in these when you're in a position like I am to do a live stream a day, but you don't really have the equipment to kind of like set up your own little pop-up studio, right? And you do what you got to do, man. You got to do what you got to do. You're just nothing. There's things that are out of control. I express this all the time. You don't want to, like, if you can't do things well, but you're still able to do them, do them. And people are so caught up on this, like, I want to be able to do it perfectly. Well, you're not. There's very little time. You're not always going to be in a position to do things like perfectly all the time. And I've seen people who will not do the thing at all because they're like, oh, I was going to do it, but because I couldn't do it well, I decided not to. And I get that, man. I get that phrase. I get that. I understand completely. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it well, right? I've been told that all the time. And then as I got more wise and I've done more things, I understand that you're not always going to be able to do things well. You're not always going to be in that position where you can do things correctly. Now, where is a light in here that I can turn on? I wonder if there's a light over here. I wonder if I can press this thing, it'll turn it on. Yeah, there we go. I'm super excited over the fact that I can get a light on in this room. So I think that's it for here. So let's kind of play around with it. I think we're going to play around with this. I might do this one first because this kind of shows what he's doing. And I'm just going to kind of do some of the action lines that I'm seeing from George Bridgman's work here, kind of create the expression. So as you can see in his drawings here, he's really kind of creating these exaggerated like structures here. And it's very, if you don't understand what he's doing, if you don't understand the breaking down of forms, it can be kind of challenging. To some extent, I don't understand it all way completely because the drawings themselves are kind of like sketches, and he merely used them probably as a reference point when he was given like demos in his drawing course, right? He was using these block-like forms to kind of express these angles and express form, but he wasn't using it to kind of really render the drawing fully. He was just kind of showing this as an example. And I imagine that the drawings were probably much more crisp because they were done, when they were done, they were probably really, really clean. And there was less degradation because these are probably very old drawings. And what I've kind of noticed with these old, like not old drawing books, but like, yeah, like this is an old drawing book. This is the 5th printing, the 5th edition. So what I've noticed with those old drawing books, like their scanning ability to kind of scan things or take photos and put them in print are not as good as they are now. There is definitely a degradation of the image when it comes to these examples here. So I can only imagine that these drawings were much cleaner, and there's lines there that were there, but you can't see because of the inability at the time to kind of place those objects, the inability to like transfer them in print. I imagine also maybe that when they photographed these and they put them into print, the lighting, because they have to photograph, they probably need a lot of lighting to kind of get a good photo. And sometimes lighting degrades some of the line work that happens here. And you get that a lot in scans. I've heard that a lot of illustrators that are doing scan work will have to go back into Photoshop, and they will from time to time, as they'll go in Photoshop and resaturate a lot of the forms in their drawings. They'll resaturate the lines, they'll resaturate the colors, because when they scan it themselves, you'll find they often find that there's a lot of lost information being taken out, because when you scan something, they use that light to kind of like scan the object, and the light that kind of Xerox or copies that image, it kind of, the light itself takes away some of the colors and some of the lines and information that were there previously. And so, I can only imagine what these drawings look like in person. I wonder what they would look like. I can imagine that they were probably quite stunning in person, because you just don't get that. There's probably a loss of information that you didn't know about at the time. So what I like about some of these drawings here is he's kind of treating these as like blocks. And because if you treat your human figure like it was a block, you know how shadowing works through a simple block shape, right? There's going to be a light, a mid-tone, and then like a dark tone or whatever it is. You're able to kind of facet your tones here. And so there's something nice to be said about treating the figure as if it's kind of like a blocky form, And yeah, I think I would have spent a little bit more time on this if I had some. I need to, I don't know, I'm running out of things to talk about. I kind of just oversaturated. I pretty much talked the entire time, and I've run out of just content. I went today on my vacay. I went and saw there's this power plant, and there is the power plant not emits through whatever process it does, it allows the heat, the ambient energy from the power plant heats the water around the area. And because of that, manatees love to hang out there. It's become their favorite place to hang out, because the water itself is incredibly warm. So it's become like this, almost like a manatee refuge. And so it just looked like a bunch of like floating rocks in the water. That's what they look like. Manatees in the water, they look like just giant floating rocks, because they got all those barnacles on them, And so they're just they for the whole time, all you see is every 5 minutes there's a head popping out, getting some air, and then they go back under the water. But man, it was quite interesting to see all those manatees. Apparently there was up to 600 in the bay, and so that's a very popular thing that occurs in that area, is that those manatees kind of come out there to kind of congregate. And so we went there, man. It was kind of interesting to see. I learned a few things. The manatee can hold their breath for about 20 minutes. If they're really active and are feeding and moving around, they can hold their breath up to 5 minutes. But if they're just parking their body underwater, they can hold their breath for 20 minutes. And I wanted to ask the guy how I learned that is they have this guy kind of he just hangs around answering questions. And I thought to myself, okay, how many times, I want to be how many times do you get asked that question? I'm sure the guy gets asked that question all the time. He probably gets asked, hey, how long do you think a manatee stays underwater? Oh, it's about 20 minutes. And then because within the time frame that I was there, only 2 minutes, he got asked twice. So he's there the entire time being asked, how long can they stay underwater? And he says, oh, up to 20 minutes, up to 20 minutes. Did you not hear me last time? So I thought that was really interesting thing. I think about weird things. I thought like that'd be really weird. That's a weird question to ask. You know, like the guy was asked how many minutes do manatees stay underwater, but I bet you he gets asked that thousands of times a week. You know, that's his job to answer the same question over and over again. And it makes you wonder, like, is there like a person that like probably went kind of like, he's like, I can't take it anymore. I'm getting tired of asking this question. Google it. Don't ask me. You got your cell phone right there. You know, you ever think like there's probably an instance where there's one guy that just got tired of answering the same question. It's like, and the guy's like, Phil, in the office now. I was like, what? I'm tired of asking. They keep asking me the same questions, Rob. They keep asking me the same questions. I can't answer it. I'm tired. I'm done. Can you put me in another department, please? And that's me pretending I was an employee of that place. I don't know. But if you think about it, like, just if the worst part of your job is being asked the same question over and over again, I mean, I guess there could be more terrible things that you could worry about in your job, like whether or not you're going to lose a limb, or whether or not like if you're working in construction, your concern is not whether or not being asked too much. Your concern is whether you might fall off a beam or something. Right? Oh man. So there's a lot of other jobs that you could definitely be that could have a lot more like just things that you'd be more concerned about than just being asked the same question over and over again, you know? So like, I think it's because I thought that was just like a funny little thing to kind of like think about with regards to like what the guy's job was, is answering questions, and the fact that he probably gets asked the same question over and over again, and literally how there could be someone right next to you who would ask the same one. You know, I'm like, oh, like, I just told you. I just told the person right next to you the answer. Like, yeah, but I want you to answer my question, which is the same one that I did, that the person next to me asked. You know, I imagine that he's like, okay, take a breather, let's take a breather, and let's just step back for a minute, right? Well, anyways, I think I'm done for the day. I think this was a rather interesting, a fun little, exercise. I don't really know if I've grown at all in this episode, but I definitely had fun talking and had a little bit of a learning experience. As you can see, this is kind of sloppy. What I would typically do when I get to this point is I'll re-outline some of these areas so that the figure, the drawing that I meant or intended the viewer to see, I re-express those lines so they pop out visually into my sketchbook. Otherwise, it gets kind of lost in these practice runs here. So that is it. That is day, excuse me, day 355 of 400 days of drawing. I wish you a wonderful day. This is Pearson coming to you from what is it called? Is it called the Sunshine State? I'm going to call it the magnificent, the ever beautiful Florida. Although some people don't like Florida, but that might be another thing to talk about next time. I wish you a wonderful day. This is Pearson. I am the #1 live art streamer in the world. Cheers.